Okay. This is a song about Milton. My mother was born and raised in Milton. My grandfather, Holiday, had a dairy farm up there. And I spent a lot of summer days in Milton because they all had an aunt and uncle that lived up there. And we always went up there for the 4th of July. They had a lot better 4th of July celebration than they ever did in Janesville. If you were ever up there, they had a big aluminum ball about 6 feet in diameter that was suspended between trees and a cable. And the Milton Fire Department, this isn't in the song, this is a bonus. And the Milton Junction Fire Department, from what I remember, is 2 different towns, and at that point there was a Milton and a Milton Junction. They had a battle, and they put the ball in this sphere in the center of a stretch of trees, maybe 50 feet apart. And both fire departments had their fire hoses out. And they have a lot of power to them. And the trick was you had to direct your hose onto that sphere to drive it down. And if you could drive it down to the other tree, you got the right to do all the out-of-town fires for a year. You know, in Milton there weren't a lot of fires, so this was the big deal. If they were shooting it, they're getting too close to your tree, of course, the easiest thing to do is to turn the hose on them and knock them all over, and then quickly try and get it down. So that was excitement in Milton, and I used to love to go there. I went to Milton College for 1 year, and we used to kid around. It was kind of a letdown. There were less students, total population in Milton College than in my graduating class of high school, so I felt like I'd been sent back a grade. But I went to Milton College 1 year, and one of the things that was characteristic of Milton that college students didn't like was you couldn't have, there were no bars in Milton. For you young'uns, you won't remember this. You may not even know that there was ever a Milton Junction as far as that's concerned. And this song is about the history of Milton, and I have to tell you some of these things because I don't know of another town that has quite as interesting and unique a history as Milton, and you wouldn't realize it just driving through town. But Milton was founded by, as the song will tell you, a Major Joe Goodrich. He fought during the War of 1812, and he had a little grocery store in Alfred, New York, state of New York, and he and some of his close friends traveled west and came to where Milton is now, and bought some land, and they started the town of Milton. Goodrich was a teetotaler, and he wanted to build a utopian society where you would only have good, upright Christians living there. Definitely nobody drinking. He did approve of water, though, so he wouldn't mind if I take a sip. So what he did was he bought the land for the park that's still there in the center of Milton. And he, to try and get the town growing, he gave away parcels of land along the edge of the park, as the song says, to anybody who was willing to swear to the Cold Water Pledge. The Cold Water Society started among the Cherokee Indians, and they had a pledge that, and you had to take this to be a member of the Cold Water Society, that nothing stronger than water would ever cross your lips. Goodrich built the Milton House, and if there's anybody here who's never gone in there, do it tomorrow. And you will hear this song actually, weirdly, as the introduction to the tape that talks about it, which I discovered. Anyway, because the Milton House was on the crossroads of travel, Goodrich wanted to start a saloon. People want to stop on a long, dusty trip and get a drink. But it was a temperance saloon, and the only thing they served was non-alcoholic beverages, and the joke was that if you went out behind the Milton House, there was a well back there, and you could bring up a bucket of water full of Milton rum. So the song refers to that. I wrote this song because one summer I was home And there had been this rule that there could never be a tavern built in Milton. That's why Milton Junction started, just so you could drink beer, basically. And if you were thirsty and you wanted a beer in Milton, you had to drive about 3 blocks to a tavern in Milton Junction and you could get a beer. Somewhere along the line, some young upstart lawyer decided to check to see if there was any legal basis for the restriction of the sale of alcohol in Milton. And there wasn't. This had just been a verbal agreement. So they had a vote, and they voted that you could have liquor in Milton. And then there was no reason for Milton Junction anymore, so Milton Junction was swallowed up by Milton. And they built, which shocked me, it seemed like a thumb to the nose to Joe Goodrich. They not only built the bar in Milton, they built it looking on the park, that he gave that land for nothing for people if they'd swear not to drink. And if that isn't bad enough, it's called the Park View Bar. So it's a double thumb to the nose. This is a song about the whole history of Milton with a few other little things. One very quick, because I don't want to spend too much more time on this. My wife and I just went on a cruise of Scandinavia and Northern Europe, and we were sitting in the airport in Amsterdam waiting for our flight, and we got something to eat and there wasn't an empty table, so I asked if we could sit down with this woman. In conversation, we found out that she'd been on the cruise along with 2,000 others of us, so we weren't aware of that. And she grew up in Milton. So this was pretty bizarre because Milton was like 800 population when I was a kid. To run into somebody in Amsterdam in the Netherlands who grew up in Milton and knew my grandfather's farm and all the rest of it. So this is called, the title of the song, one other thing I forgot to tell you. Joe Goodrich was a great fan of the book Paradise Lost by John Milton. That's where the word Milton from Milton Junction came from. But initially the town was named Paradise Found because nobody would want to go by covered wagon 1,000 miles to settle a town named Paradise Lost. So this is called Paradise Found. He bought 20 acres of prime prairie land for a park at the center of town. And he gave $60 in trade from his store, and he named it Paradise Found. He gave parcels of land at the edge of the town for any industrious man who was willing to swear to the Coldwater Pledge to drive King alcohol from the land. In just 20 years, the town was alive with shops up and down the street. There were plowrights, there were blacksmiths and wheelwrights, dry goods and drugstores, a plow factory, a post office. I gotta do that one again. That's a tongue twister. There were wheelwrights and blacksmiths, dry goods and drugstores, a post office, a plow factory. And over at Goodrich's Temperance Saloon, the music and laughter would flow. And they'd raise up their glasses of cold Milton rum, and they'd offer the Major a toast. Now some people can't leave a good thing alone. They've a taste that cold water can't cure. And those Seventh-day Baptists and their preachy ways, they all acted so smug and secure. So down at the junction a tavern sprung up where they served up a manlier brew. And they raised up their glasses to King alcohol and to hell with Joe Goodrich and crew. 126 years in the town, Joe Goodrich's will had its way. There was never a tavern on Goodrich's land, though the family had long passed away. And some called it progress, but most didn't care when they voted the liquor ban down. And not many remembered Joe Goodrich's name when he first bought the land for the town. Now down at the Parkview they sit at the bar and go drifting away on the tide. And there's never a mention of Goodrich's name. You might think that his vision has died. Now don't get me wrong, I'm no different than you. I've been known to partake now and then. But if you're worth your salt, you'll hold on to your dreams. They're still the best measure of man. If you're worth your salt, you'll hold on to your dreams. They're still the best measure of man.